Thanks for joining us.
Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community.
Welcome to the podcast. You are now tuned in to this episode of our podcast. Today we are going to interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in our field. And now, please welcome your host.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And it's been a long time, not since 1981, but it's been a long time since Rabbi Lopatin joined us when he was in New York, very active in the Jewish community. And now he is in Michigan, Director of Community Relations at the Jewish Federation of Greater Ann Arbor, and also the Rabbi of Oak Park Synagogue, Kehilat Eitz Chaim, a mono-Orthodox congregation. And he just got back from Syria with a group of 8 people, 5 Jews that were together in Syria, meeting with former Syrian rebels. Welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us. Good to have you back.
Thanks so much. Great to be back. Thank you so much.
I think last time we were covering Yeshiva Chovei Torah and all the controversy. This seems tamer, right? Going to Syria.
Syria, same. Exactly. But, you know, and the truth is, being there, it was like the friendliest place, the nicest place. I mean, people were so kind and good senses of humor, and felt so comfortable there, believe it or not.
So tell us how it all came about. It's not typical that you have Jews from the United States and you had some others that go to Syria on the visiting. Really, the government invited you, and you're there with former Syrian rebels who were fighting the Assad regime, and they welcomed you with open arms. How did it all come about that you and some of your colleagues ended up in Syria?
Well, the Syrian community and really under the leadership.
They don't even have a kosher restaurant there, so that's why.
You know, God willing, not yet, but I brought my tuna fish with me. But the Syrian Jewish community under the leadership of Rav Binyamin Hamra in Israel sent a letter to the government congratulating them and saying they'd like to visit sometime. And the organization that brought me in, the Syrian Emergency Task Force, they really reached out to the government and said, hey, can you please invite Syrian Jews to return to Syria? Now, they want to help the government become part of the Western world. They want to help lift sanctions off of Syria to help Syrians. So they felt that if this would work out and the government would welcome Syrian Jews back and other Jews like me, then
you're not Syrian, right? Not yet.
I am not. I did my DNA testing. I'm 98% Eastern European, 2% Central European. So, but I'm very close to a Dr. Yahya Basha in Detroit, a Muslim Syrian who was very excited about this trip, and he helped sponsor it. And he said, you know, Asher, you got to go. So the government invited us, and we went. And I'll tell you, I think it's an opportunity. I want this government to turn towards the West, towards the United States. I don't want it to go towards Russia or Turkey.
They're already in league with Turkey. Turkey has helped them out, and they visited the president of Syria, went to Turkey and visited the president of Turkey. They have very close relations with Turkey.
But he first went to Saudi Arabia, and I think we have to. And speaking to Syrian friends of mine, they say, like, you got to get them off of Turkey as much as possible and into Saudi, into America. And Turkey is going to want to dominate as much as possible. Now it's a chance to move them away, and certainly to fight Iran and Hezbollah. And these rebels, these jihadists, ISIS people, they were the ones who fought Assad, and Assad was, propped up by Hezbollah and Iran, and now they're enemies of Hezbollah and Iran. And to a great extent, my enemy's enemy is my friend. And this government, I really feel, is an opportunity. And Dr. Basha also felt it's different. It's not your typical anti-Israel, obsessed with Israel government. It is a government that's trying to unify Syria and really might be an opportunity. So I didn't want to miss it. So I asked my wife. She let me go. I guess I should be worried about that. But and there I went, and it was very...
Weren't you concerned? Because number one, these are former rebels. There's also Assad loyalists that are shooting up different parts of Syria, and they assassinated some of the new government officials. So weren't you concerned that the rebels, and that it's still not a stable and safe place?
Well, Damascus, I think, is sort of the stronghold of the rebels now, and so I felt okay. And the truth is, I felt that the government wants this trip to work, right? Because they want to show America that they're okay and all that. So I felt that the last thing that would happen would be, someone from the government harming us. A lot of people have already visited over the last few months, not Jews, but others, and they felt very safe. So. Yeah, I guess there was some risk. It was just a few of us that went, but we were guaranteed security, and they did provide excellent security. But these soldiers, official soldiers from the government, had a great sense of humor. They let us play with their gun. I put tallis on when I visited the synagogue and hugged one of them, and they had a great sense of humor. Everyone there just felt this relief that Assad was gone. And I know that there are still battles this week, but I'm hoping that the government really can pull things together and can just stay on track and focused against Iran and Hezbollah and for bringing the Syrians together. And I hope the Jewish community can be helpful in that, to keep them focused on that.
Now, how many synagogues are intact in Damascus? I know you visited some. You also found some Sefer Torahs, right?
Yeah, the main synagogue, the Al-Frej synagogue, large synagogue, had all the Sefer Torah. They were blocked by chairs. We moved away all the chairs, and we took out, and these are there are several, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 Sefer Torah. We saw about 5 synagogues in various states of disrepair, but they were not overrun by people. They were not looted by people at all. So they were really carefully, I say, preserved, even though they needed, like in Hebrew, shiputzim, they needed to be, fixed up. But they were there, and I think it's in the old Jewish area, which is in the old city, and really very, there was a hotel, by the way, there's a hotel right next door to the synagogue. So lots of opportunities for returning.
A Pesach program.
I would love that. Next year.
But Rabbi Harry Hamza, there's a connection with the Sefer Torah that were there. That you had. Tell us about what happened with the Sefer Torah while you were there.
So the 2 stars, I was just in a supportive role, but Yosef Hamra, who is really one of the leaders of the Syrian Jews in Flatbush in New York, and his son Henry left in 1992, 30 years ago, and they found in that shul, that was their shul, they daven at regularly, and that's where Henry had his bar mitzvah 35 years ago. And he actually found the Torah. We made sure to take out that Torah that he was bar mitzvahed with. And, we didn't have a minyan there at the time, so we read Torah. We didn't really have laning. But that was emotional, very emotional for them. And really like a homecoming, which, is totally different than Jews returning after World War II, after the Holocaust, to Poland, and where they were chased out and they were killed in riots. And likewise, I think I've heard in some other Arab countries, even after the Arab Spring or whatever, not so welcome. Here in Syria, they were welcomed from, they knew we were Jewish, and people.
Well, you wore a kippah in certain parts of the city, right?
So, they really wanted us to wear caps because they wanted this to go smooth, no trouble. But I try to wear a kippah like in the hotel and outside in the Jewish area. And there are many times where, we went to it was a non-kosher restaurant. I couldn't eat anything. But there, I had my kippah, everyone was dancing, and on the airplane, people knew because I got my kosher meal to Damascus from Doha. People knew I was Jewish, and they wanted to take pictures with me because, look, I might be naive. I'm a rabbi, I'm not a politician, but it really felt that there was an excitement of seeing for Syrians to see Jews return to Syria that showed that the Assad regime was over, that things had changed. I think people really felt that rather than being afraid of Jews returning or not liking Jews, it was like, wow, this shows that there's a new free Syria. I mean, it felt that way. And from what I've heard, the government, there was some chatter about me that I'm such a Zionist. I saw on Facebook and some of the Arab I don't know, media or something, who let this big Zionist into the country.
And that was social media in Syria itself.
In Syria, yeah, we saw some, but no one, the government, everyone was welcoming. They didn't care. Israel did not come up at all. None of the complaints. Well, what about, all the issues, Gaza and this and that?
Palestinians, Hamas, Hezbollah didn't come up.
And great, because they're focused on, they have 5 million refugees that they have to bring back. They have 500,000 people murdered by the Assad regime. They need to focus on Syria. And I have such respect for the government that really is doing it. And the people talk about Syria first, that they're this diplomat. We met the deputy foreign minister focused on USA issues. He said, I want Syrian Jews to come back because I'm a servant of Syria and we want Syrians to be together. And that was the focus. So it's great. Syria first.
Rabbi Yoshua Lopatin is our guest. He's director of community relations at the Jewish Federation of Greater Ann Arbor. He's also the rabbi of Kehillat Eitz Chaim, the Oak Park Synagogue. And he just got back with a total of 8 people that went to Damascus to meet with former rebel leaders who now rule Syria. Now, Israel, though, were they happy? Did you get any feedback? Because they look at the rebels with suspicion, the new leadership of the government there. In fact, they have bombing raids where they're looking to get rid of some of the weapons. And they're also in some of the area in Syria which they're not planning to give back for security reasons. So as far as you can tell, is the Israeli government happy with your trip?
Well, that's a great question. I did meet with 3 members of the Foreign Office in Israel. After I went to Damascus, I came back for a few days, and then I went to Israel for a wedding. So I met with Misrad HaChutz, with the Israel Foreign Office, and they thanked me for this trip. I showed them all the pictures. I gave them some information they might not have had. You're right. I think, well, first of all, of course we should suspect, be careful about this regime. Reagan said, trust but verify. In Hebrew, kabdehu v'chashtehu.
Because at the end of the day, they want back, all the territory that Syria had. Probably they want back the Golan Heights, I would guess, at some point.
I'm sure at some point there's going to have to be some discussion of that. But for now, they're not. Isn't it amazing that they're not talking about that? And he changed his name, the president, from Golan to Ashara. So, but yeah, I'll just tell you, as a Zionist, as a lover of Israel, feel Israel should bomb all over, do what you're doing, bomb all the depots and all that. And at the same time, you can reach out to this government, because the ISIS and Al-Qaeda, very bad people, but they're not our enemies right now. Our enemies are Iran and Hezbollah and still Hamas and the Houthis and their forces in Iraq. Though, let's focus on those enemies. These guys, whatever former ISIS people, they don't like the Iranians and the regime and Hezbollah. So I wish Israel would do both, would bomb away whatever you got to bomb. Israel's right. Hold on to the Hermon. I'm not advocating anything like that. But at the same time, say, well, maybe this government, we can work with them. Maybe we can get Eli Cohen's remains back.
I was just thinking about that. That's an important thing. Do they know where Eli Cohen's remains are?
Well, it's interesting. I don't know, but I do know that they, because we were there with an ambassador, Stephen Rapp, he was a former ambassador for war crimes under the Obama administration. He says they found like 20 million documents from the Assad regime. So there's a lot of documentation. I wouldn't be surprised. And, and that could be, they could welcome, that's something the government of Syria could also do as a goodwill gesture. So just focus on, not like we don't like these people, they're going to force all the women to wear, hijab, whatever. Okay, that's not America. It's not the America I want or the Israel, but let's focus on who are our real enemies. And for Iran and Hezbollah are the enemies of this government, and they're the enemies of Israel.
Now, are you planning to go back?
I would love to go back, and we'll see if, when more important rabbis get to go back, we'll see if Asher Lopatin gets to be in their midst. But
your partner, rabbi, the person who's the big writer who wrote the check.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. But
that's an important person.
I would love that. There's now a lot of talk about, Tachlis, like how do we rebuild or refurbish this synagogue? Some people are talking about this synagogue in Jobar that was sadly, tragically, totally destroyed. Maybe the oldest synagogue in the world, had the cave of Eliyahu under it. So that, or maybe just work on the synagogues in the old city. And I would love to go back. I had a great time with the people. And I just really, the kids were so kind. Everyone was so sweet. It was a little bit surreal. You wouldn't expect that from Syria. But talking to Syrians now, a lot of them say that there were good relations. So again, we need Israel. We need to be strong. We can't, in Hebron in 1929, there were great relations between Jews and Muslims, and there was a horrible massacre there. So, but it's worth exploring. It's such an opportunity.
Now, I'm curious. Here you have these abandoned synagogues. There are no Jews in Syria, right? I don't even think there's one.
7, 9.
Oh, there are 7 or 9 still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Not even a million.
Right.
I'm sure they don't use the synagogue. So who's watching the Sifrei Torah, the other Judaica? These are very valuable, these Sifrei Torah. I'm sure they go back hundreds of years in some cases. Who's watching to make sure there's no damage and not stolen? I'm just shocked that they're still there.
Yeah, it's amazing. Now, the Assad regime probably kept things in order. They wanted to use these, I don't know, as collateral or something. But there's a Muslim man, I don't even know his name, but he was there when we were in the cemetery, and he was there in the synagogue. I think he has the keys. And then there's another guy, a Jewish guy, who was profiled, Bechor Simantov. We met him also. He's also trying to preserve things. So you have these different people that are preserving things, but they really need someone from the government in charge of officially preserving things. Theoretically, the National Museum of Syria in Damascus has rights to protect all the religious institutions but you're right, amazingly. And, they had some dusty books that weren't valuable. They're from, Hebrew Publishing Company, that's the Siduri or whatever. And I wanted to take one, and this guy would not let me take anything. In fact, we visited the Ben Maimoun School, which also was in beautiful shape, but untouched for 30 years. And they had these great clocks from Damascus. It said Damascus with Hebrew. I was so tempted to snatch one of them, but this guy would not let me take anything, couldn't touch anything. So really, it is. And that's so, that's such a surprising thing. It's like exactly what you said. You wouldn't think so, but they were preserved. Not all the synagogues had Sifrei Torah, but this one was really carefully preserved.
I mean, the question will come up, if Jews don't return to Syria. Now, between me and you and the lamppost, I just don't see Syrian Jews who've been successful in the United States or Israel deciding to move back to Syria. I just don't see it happening. Question is going to be, who owns these Sifrei Torah?
Yeah, look, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot to work out. And I think as much as some properties were sold, and we visited like what's now a hotel, where a Syrian Jew from America who was visiting, another guy said that's where he lived till he was 3. There'll be a lot of questions, but a lot of opportunities. And this looks like a government. That's what you do when, like East Germany, when it merged with Western, when the fall of communism, how do you deal with all these issues of property ownership? I think it's a healthy discussion, but I agree. I don't see Jews moving back there, but re-engaging, spending a Pesach there, it's not a bad idea.
Well, hey, listen, it might be half the price of UAE. But just nobody brought up the Palestinian issue or Gaza.
Yes, one reporter from, I don't want to say what news service he was from.
American or Syrian news service?
Not American, I think Middle Eastern. And I said, do we want to talk about Sudan? Do we want to talk about the Congo, about Haiti? There are a lot of issues, global warming, a lot of issues I'd love to talk about that are not relevant to Syria. Yemen, the starvation in Yemen. So the Syrians get it. Like, we got to save Syria now. That's what we got to focus on. I wish Americans, so many Americans and so many reporters in the media would also have that focus. Like, what's important? I wish Greta Thunberg, who cares about cared about global warming, would focus on global warming instead of Gaza. But they the Syrians, they all got it. They all focused. The taxi drivers, everybody really were focused on Syria.
Now, let me ask you this. The one who financed the trip, Dr. Yair Basha, you said, is an Arab American who's very pro-Israel. And from what you told me off camera, that he was very supportive of Israel and was condemned Hamas after October 7th.
And, I don't even know how pro-Israel he is, but he's a moral, good man. And he realizes that Israel is a democracy and a good country and it needs to be emulated. And so he went on, we recorded him and put it on Facebook, condemning Hamas right away. And actually, he was under so much pressure from the Muslim community, Arab American community, we had to take it down. He's a really good man. But he feels that Syria now is moving in the right direction. And he understands also, as many Syrian Americans do in the Detroit area, that it's only because Israel took down Hezbollah and weakened Iran that they were able to
go and capture the country from Assad forces.
Yeah. So, I mean, in fact, some of my Syrian friends here say Israel should try to be the protector of Syria. And then we see of the Druze, but even of Syria. And they might prefer, I don't know, do they prefer Turkey? Do they prefer, I don't know. I don't think,
Well, Turkey has helped them. So there is a very strong connection between Turkey and the new leadership in Syria. So it's easier said than done to wean them off Turkey.
Yes.
Because Turkey still supplies, I'm sure, a lot of weapons and money and who knows what else they supply. May I humbly recommend that you go back and bring Jerry Seinfeld, who also comes from Syria, right?
Well, has he been on your show yet?
Not yet. We have to get him on.
We'll get him on. I will bring him there. He'll be great. They would love his sense of humor. I don't know if they get Seinfeld. We only had one channel in the hotel, and all Arabic, and that channel was all about Gaza and Israel and Syria, and Palestine. But Seinfeld, they would love him. They would love him in Syria. They have great.
I'm saying, I know he was mentioned. He's from his roots are from Syria, which I never knew till now. So he may make it excellent to have a trip. In fact, to have a Pesach program, a Sukkot program, we'll have Jerry Seinfeld, the headliner there. I think that would sell. That would sell.
You got it all planned out. By the way, the meals on Qatar, we'll talk another time about Qatar, but the airline, the kosher meals are outstanding. From Hermolis, from England, outstanding.
Wow. So listen, Sandler, you had a wonderful, wonderful trip. So we appreciate you sharing that with us. And I guess, are you going to still be in touch with some of the leaders that you met when you were in Syria?
Yeah, actually, we were also talking to some of maybe Ambassador Grinnell and really trying to advocate. So I will keep up those connections. And the organization that brought me in, Syrian Emergency Task Force, they're very committed to this. So I hope in the summer, they've been talking about another trip there. So I will keep you updated on that.
Terrific. Maybe we'll do a live broadcast from Syria. Who knows?
Oh, that'd be great.
And I want to thank Rabbi Lopatin. He is the Director of Community Relations at the Jewish Federation of Greater Ann Arbor. His synagogue is Kehilat Eitz Chaim, a modern Orthodox synagogue in Oak Park. And he just got back with a group of 8 people total that went to Syria, to the new Syria, that were the former rebel leaders who now control the country.
Right.
So look forward to having you back.
Great. The new Syria, make Syria great again.
I think you're a good advocate for Syria right now. I just hope they keep that. Here's the problem as we close out, is that people say this is just a show. They need Western support. They need money. As soon as they get it, they can revert back to their old ways, because I'm sure there are they're not just one group. There's a bunch of groups under their leadership, and not everybody has that same position vis-a-vis Israel and Jews. So who knows what can happen? That's
very true. You're right. And who knows? But then if that happens, we'll bomb them and we'll take care of that.
Anyway, Rabbi Lopatin, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much. Zev. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to
Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast, the pulse beat of the Jewish community.
For continuous Jewish programs, TalklineNetwork.com, or our 24-hour-a-day listen line at 641-741-0389. For past shows, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Instagram, and all major podcast platforms, or jewishpodcast.org. Thanks for listening to the TalklineNetwork.com.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Terrific. Great job.
Oh, you're on Twitter now.